Can we just cancel the meeting?
How do we do that?
I don't know.
Do you do an audio recording if that doesn't work
No,
out?
you guys should be live.
Okay.
You're good.
All right, cool.
All right.
So we turn on,
Yep.
Are we on?
You are, yes.
there we go.
All right.
Thank you.
In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. Please rise for the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball. Carol, would you please do the roll?
Sure. Jay?
Here.
Barbara?
Here?
Carol York here. Carol Sick?
Here.
George?
George Ator had a car accident in Pennsylvania. His car is wrecked. I don't think he's back yet, so he's excused.
Excused.
Jay.
Wow.
He's not hurt. His car was, undercarriage of his vehicle was ripped off, so he had a problem.
George W's here.
Yeah, George.
Jim Van Pelt is
He's
not here.
he's excused for golf.
Kiwanis Golf.
Kiwanis Golf, yeah.
Right.
Robert
Bob
Kraft's
Kraft?
absent.
Absent. And Shane is here.
Shane Myers
Here.
here. Okay. Minutes? Any changes or additions and whatnot to the minutes provided for Tuesday, August 8th? I have nothing with, I'll discuss it when we get into the regular part of the meeting for 915 Benton Avenue. Street tree damage in the driveway. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Oh.
Carol, do I have a second?
Wasn't here. I have to.
You weren't there.
Right.
Second, George. All those in favor?
Aye.
There's one abstention
Two
and,
abstentions.
pardon?
Two abstain.
Two abstentions.
Two abstentions.
Why don't vote,
You weren't
yeah.
here. All right. All right. All right. 1240 Ohio Avenue. That's the one that the tree was causing some damage to the plumbing, supposedly taking advantage of a deteriorated plumbing line covering their water meter. We said that we were, the city Shade Tree Commission said that we will reduce the branches of the tree to take some of the weight off the branches and to do something perhaps so the meter can be uncovered to look at. But the city manager authorized the tree to be taken down, and the tree is gone. Ron Manier was hired by the city manager as a contractor to remove the city tree. So that tree is gone. Again, that was over our objections, but the tree is gone. Same thing on 915 Benton Avenue. People came in, the tree was damaged in their sidewalk, or damaging their driveway and whatnot, and we said, get two estimates. The city manager all of a sudden declared that tree to be a hazard. He's authorized that tree to be removed. That has not yet been removed, but that's against our objections. We, if you remember, authorized them to get two concrete estimates for repairing of both the driveway and the sidewalk, and we would do some trimming of the tree. But right now, it's in limbo. I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens.
Jay, isn't there any way we can contest some of these?
Yes,
Approvals?
I think we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. We're changing the ordinance. It's going to change the ordinance. We'll have a set of changed ordinance in our hands before the October meeting, okay? And at that time, we'll set up a procedure that we were not going to be overridden by the city manager unless we have a come-to-Jesus meeting with the owners, city manager, and representatives of the Shade Tree Commission. So we'll have a sit-down where we talk about this, and the decision is not going to be made to override us just on that basis.
I had spoken to the mayor, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and talked about the city manager being here at that one case we had.
You've
the
been here
woman
for
on
more
Mount-
than one case, which is his right.
Right.
Right now, and the way it's set up, the city manager can override our decisions. And it'll probably, the city manager can suggest to override our decisions, but it has to be a meeting of all the parties involved. It can't be just them just overriding the thing, hiring a contractor and taking the tree down. I think that's going to be part of our
Solicitor is creating a process for this hearing, I'll call it.
hearing, yes.
It's almost like a court.
Something in writing.
You know, and
Both
the
sides have to
purpose,
be heard.
the purpose is to come out with a result that benefits all parties.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
'cause-
purpose,
That sounds fair.
don't forget,
absolutely.
ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of the 50/50 program is to protect the tree and maintain a reasonably level and safe sidewalk. If the tree is going to come down, there's no sense of having the 50/50 program on this. In this basis, if this persists on this Benton Avenue thing, I would suggest that we pull the 50/50 off the table. And if we take that tree down, there's no sense in providing half the cost of him redoing his
That
driveway.
So-
defeats the purpose.
I don't
I
understand.
agree.
I agree too, but what is the purpose of the Shade Tree Commission? If everything we say no to, somebody can say yes. We're not protecting the trees in the city.
No, I know.
I mean, we might as well just say,
You can
why are
list-
we here?
You can list, Patterson Avenue.
Yes.
What?
And part of the process, the purpose of part of this process is to make it public. Everybody should be able to see what was discussed.
Good point, Shane.
Instead of, someone making a phone call or writing an email and all of a sudden getting what they want. Or even showing up in person to the manager's office. So this way, it shows our strength and our purpose, in public and why we
We
want
could have a public hearing.
It puts the transparency in there that it should be.
Absolutely. We've discussed possibly moving it over to the city council side, but council meetings are already too long
Yeah, that's
to make it
right.
into
Yeah. I don't want to have to
federal
have.
court.
We don't want, and up until very recently, we've never had a conflict with this. Generally, we would work it out with trimming 50/50 programs or something like this with the homeowner, and then all of a sudden, they all of a sudden realize they can appeal to the city manager, and he rolls over on it. And that's a recent happening.
Well, I'm the new guy here, and I'm counting it, it's 4 or 5 times since I've been here that that's happened. The
Well, it
city
started-
manager come in and overrule.
It started earlier last year with Broadway.
So I wasn't here.
Take a couple of big trees down to put a pool in the yard, And generally, most of the conflicts we have now with stuff is with pools, people putting pools in the yard. We're a couple of blocks from the ocean, but, people
They want it there.
want pools to make their house more valuable and to get their higher rents.
For rentals, that's what I.
That's for rentals.
That's the big issue.
And that happened on, excuse me.
I can't tell you how many people come on the website I have looking for.
A pool.
My house rental.
Well, and the pool,
We want a swimming
I've
pool.
seen these pools.
3 blocks
And
away,
I've
3
had
blocks, block and a half
I've had
to
hot
go.
tubs bigger than that. I've seen hot tubs bigger than those pools.
Well, that happened on Washington Street. I think, what were there, 5 trees taken down for a pool in the backyard, which isn't very big,
That's Jim Van Pels, yeah, right by,
tennis court,
what's that little street that comes off of Lafayette?
golf.
Golf Lane, yeah. A couple of trees, and I wondered about that too, because all of a sudden there were 5 or 6 trucks from Modena, from place up in Fairlawn. And I've asked Nancy just to make sure they've got approvals to work in Cape May. And the approvals are just to make sure they've got workers' comp and insurance and stuff like this for their employees. And there were about 6 trucks, and they were really doing a number on those trees, but they were taken out because the pool would have compromised all the trees on the side yard. And the couple of trees in the front yard were pretty badly.
That's because the builders piled stuff against them.
Pardon?
That's because the builders abused the tree with their construction equipment.
When they built the house.
When they built the
Yeah.
house.
That's the problem also.
That's another,
Part of the new ordinance, when they come in for the construction, like they do in Cape May, or West Cape May, we're gonna have the ordinance saying, now you must protect the trees with a solid barrier, not a little plastic fence that people step over and pile things.
They just run the truck right over it.
Pardon?
The construction barriers now that are being used are, sometimes it even looks like plastic trash bags.
Right.
On pieces of wood, and
Yeah.
that doesn't stop anything.
It doesn't stop anything, that's the problem. And the trees get abused, then you wonder why, 2 or 3 years later, why the tree is doing poorly, getting some dead spots. So hopefully that'll be addressed. I know that construction barriers for protecting trees is in the Uniform Building Code, but nobody, the construction office won't enforce it. If we get it in the shade tree ordinance, we can enforce it. And we enforce it, not just you and me, we enforce it through code enforcement boys, okay?
That's what
They're the ones that's gonna be doing it. All right.
that's,
You saw in the paper, I did have a chance to address the Environmental Commission.
That was a great article.
yeah,
That was a good article. I'm concerned about what's gonna happen on the marine forest we have. Shane? The city is hopefully, the city is not gonna be taking down the black pine trees and the poison ivy on the beach.
We've always taken poison ivy off the beach.
Pardon?
We've always taken the poison ivy off the beach.
How about the black pine trees?
According to the plans, I don't think we can get rid of those, can we?
Pardon?
I think according to the plans, we're not allowed to get rid of those big trees.
Hopefully, but they didn't work in Avalon. And poison ivy, as I said to the Environmental Commission, the people shouldn't be out of the path anyhow, walking into dunes. And the poison ivy provides berries for birds, and you won't get poison ivy if you're not walking into dunes. And you shouldn't be in the dunes anyhow. So if the city wants to it's like, poison ivy is like bamboo. You say, I'm gonna get rid of it, but you never do.
I know they removed the poison ivy by the edge of the dunes,
Right.
Which, the seaward edge or the landward
the
edge?
landward edge.
Okay.
So that people who park don't rub up against.
Oh.
But I haven't seen them in the dunes getting rid of the poison ivy. It's still pretty prevalent there.
Well, we had a DEP application for dune maintenance and beach maintenance. Part of that had to do with the dunes, and the dune maintenance did not allow us to clear everything and start new or anything like that. It's about maintaining I would call it the forestry of the area, allowing some growth by cleaning it up and things like that. I did ask the person what are we allowed to do when it comes to these big trees that people want to get rid of, and he said we can't do anything besides trim them.
That's what I was gonna talk about. Is there a way that we can keep them, but keep them trimmed down low so that it doesn't obstruct the view of the ocean, first of all, and actually,
No.
I just think maintain the whole
No.
area?
You can't top
For
the
aesthetic wise, I would have, that's something I would like to do, but, I'm a novice, they said that would damage the trees if we did.
Yeah, you
No,
top,
no, top them.
Uh-huh.
So
Top them.
Shane, is there any interest in putting new plantings in? Because, when I walk along there, there's a lot of empty spaces that just have weeds that you could probably put in like bayberries or something like that,
I think that's part of the plan as well.
is it?
Yeah.
Where do you see this plan?
It was brought up,
None of,
I can
none of
get a
those,
copy for you guys if
Could
you like.
Yes.
other than Spartina Patton's beach grass, none of those trees were planted. Not one. All
They were
those
planted
pine
from
trees,
birds.
all the other type of evergreen trees, everything else that's flourished there is stuff that's brought in
Just
one way
volunteers.
or another.
Yeah.
By birds, by washing ashore, by, whatever means. None of it was planted.
Because there's a really great variety of stuff that's
There's
in
a,
there.
there's a
I mean,
great
it's
variety.
incredible.
Nature has its way, and it's doing a good job.
Well, when I was a child in Cub Scouts, we planted dune grass all along that beach
Yeah,
front.
yeah.
Did you?
So everything that you've seen there is
Well, you were-
brought in afterwards.
You were just a youngster then, but
I
I
was,
remember.
I was maybe
we were
7,
in the
8.
Boy Scouts or something. We
Cub
had
Scouts.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, widows, orphans, prisoners of war. Everybody was out there on their hands and knees with polyester ropes with knots on them and little diggers, planting
Stuff.
beach grass in there. We did that for about a week or 10 days. And then that first section washed out. And then we had to do it again. But we kept doing it until the stuff started to spread out and form the mat, that holds that beach down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
So-
sure it does, yeah.
And of course, it took a couple of replenishments of sand, to keep that thing going in that, between Poverty Beach and the convention hall.
And about 9 years ago, they had, the city manager and the mayor, they had a college come and do some of the filling in of the bald spots as well. So if that's something you were interested in doing,
Didn't they do that?
we can come up with some kind of project for the spring or whatever is best to do that. If anybody's interested, we can get some
Well,
volunteers.
I don't agree, I don't agree of topping the pine trees. Their pine trees are not making a thick growth. There's a pine tree here and there. It's not like a forest.
And
So
they're not
I
dense,
suggest,
they're kind of,
yeah, they're
Well,
all
that's
just
different
all over the
places.
That's
I
what
would
I
say,
was gonna
I
say.
say,
It does
please,
remind me
please,
of a
please,
forest. It
leave it
does.
alone. Other than clearing up the
They're not-
poison ivy away from some of the paths and along the edges, the
The
street
edges,
edges, leave it alone.
Well, they were talking also about getting rid of some invasive species.
What's
there's
invasive
no,
species?
what invasive species?
I have to get this application fee.
Because,
You
I mean,
see,
there's,
in Avalon, they said the Japanese black pine was an invasive species. It's not. It's a non-native species. Doesn't make it invasive. It's
I
a
mean, there's no-
non-native species.
there's no bamboo on the dunes,
No.
That's
Bamboo has more sense than that.
right? And there's no Bradford pear trees on the dunes,
Yes. And
There's no
no
tree of
trees of
heaven.
heaven.
no tree of heaven.
No trees of heaven on the beach. That
I
knows,
mean-
they know better.
There are some beach roses, but, I mean, in
Marsh roses or beach roses?
beach roses, and they're supposed to be invasive, but I'll tell you, I've been walking along the dunes for 12 years, and the beach roses that are there have not spread.
Of what?
Have not spread. They are not taking over.
You
the
talking about
dunes.
the white or pink?
The pink ones.
Right,
with the
okay.
red.
Are they, I didn't know that, because I see them over on Mount Vernon Avenue on the Bunker, not the Bunker Pond, but the Cove Pond, freshwater pond that's back there. And they're freshwater things, they're not saltwater.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, hopefully by the next meeting, before the next meeting, we should have,
By the end of the month.
pardon?
By the end of the month, beginning of next month.
By the end of the month, we should have a formatted changes to the ordinance to look at and study before the October meeting. Okay, and the October meeting is going to happen again the second Tuesday of next month, but at the end of the month, everybody should make, if possible, make plans on going to the Shade Tree Federation meeting in Cherry Hill.
I'll be in Cape Cod next.
Pardon? You guys can't make it. You've already been to a couple of those
I
meetings.
have, yeah.
And
Yeah, I've been to
you've
several.
had core training. You have not had core training yet, neither has Jim. So we want to make sure we get him into that.
Will do.
All right.
Sean, Shane, is the plan for the dunes, is that online, or is that,
It's not a plan, it's a DEP application of things that we can and can't do.
oh, Oh,
I'll have to figure out, I'm gonna ask the city clerk if I can figure out when we had that presentation, so that
Okay.
way I can let you know, so that way you can look it up.
okay.
I can't remember exactly when.
What was this for, Shane? This is the Environmental Commission?
No, this is an application for beach maintenance to the state
Oh, so
DEP.
this is like through the city then?
It's from the city, yeah. I'm
Okay.
not sure if it's been approved yet or not, but, it's pretty intense.
Well, would you
Yeah.
please convey the feelings of the Shade Tree Commission about removing or topping or doing anything to the black pine trees that are there? We don't consider a tree like that to be invasive. It's a non-native tree, but that doesn't mean anything. If it does well, the magnolias, as I said to the Environmental Commission, magnolia trees are not native, but they do well here. You know, and arborvitae trees are not native, but they do well
They
here.
do,
You know, so,
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely relate that to, the city council. Do you understand how the, environmental commission feels about it? Does anybody have,
I got the impression that they wanted to leave it the heck alone.
okay.
That's my impression, now I could be wrong.
yeah. I couldn't
My
tell from the
thoughts
article.
are,
I couldn't
is it
tell.
possible that we could set something up as a council meeting just for this? Because I think the public, you know, the people, the residents who live here in
There were
Cape May
several
have
people
to
that was
say
making
about
those comments.
how their beach
Yes,
looks and
yes.
how they
Well,
would like to use it.
So let's think about it like this. When we get this new ordinance and everybody studies it, we should probably present it to city council for them, for their review or introduction as a new ordinance. And at that point, we can talk about some of our other, come up with a couple bullet points of what we want to talk about at the meeting.
Yeah, because-
This is after we receive this, after our next meeting.
Yeah, if we can be part of that, you know.
Just a
it's
short
part of that.
conversation with the council and the public, I think.
I think it's a good thing, you know, so many times I read the paper and I see all these things that are happening and I go, well, I never heard about that before, you know, all of a sudden things just get, you know, passed through meetings. And so, and I believe that, you know, we get criticized a lot, the Shade Tree does from a lot of the public sometimes because they're not happy about all the things that we say and what we do. And so, to me, I think it would be good for the public, the residents of Cape May to come to hear everything discussed, that they would feel that they were part of, which they are, a
Right.
part of Cape May, and give their opinions and so forth. So that's my suggestion for the day.
Shane, I have a question. You're talking about new ordinances. What, is that something
This is,
incorporated with our present?
well,
Or-
I think we've passed that point, because I wanted to explain to you what we have done so far. So basically, what we're trying to do is mimic what West Cape May has.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
They have diagrams and things like that in their ordinance. It's more strict than ours.
Yep.
We omitted one section of it, which was about a tree professional, some kind of a tree professional, which is a
Yeah.
different situation than we have, which you can always look into in the future, but for the most part, it's ripping what we have out and placing what they have in.
But I thought the Shade Tree Commission was supposed to be doing that. I don't know. When we had a subcommittee or whatever,
Well,
are we still going to have input?
you're gonna have the new ordinance to look at.
But we didn't, I guess I'm still confused. We didn't
Well,
have
you
any
have
say
had
in
a-
it.
You had a copy of the West Cape
Yes,
ordinance.
yes.
All right.
And you've
And
had-
that's
Now, we're
why,
gonna meld our ordinance together with that. So
Okay.
we had a meeting, I had a meeting with Shane and the city attorney who drafted the ordinance for West Cape May.
Okay.
Okay, when he was the solicitor for West Cape May. So we're putting these two things together. Now, if
Okay,
there's things in there that we don't agree with, in October meeting, we won't present it like that to city council. But if we can all agree on this thing, it's very important that we're there at the next meeting in October, that we can agree on what we want to do, and then we'll present it, Shane will present it to city council.
when
Well, we
was
can
that
all-
mean? Because I was on the subcommittee with you
It wasn't a
guys.
subcommittee meeting.
Oh.
I met up with Jay, and Jay wanted to meet with the attorney, so
Okay.
Well, everybody's
I
after-
missed that.
But
everybody's
you're gonna
after
get,
getting-
you're gonna get all this material before the next meeting. For you to do
Everybody's
the
after
research.
getting it going. so
Oh, they're going to
that's
be
what we're
emailing it to us, or how are we
They're
going to?
gonna email it to you? Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I get it, it's gonna be emailed to you.
And then we bring it to the meeting and discuss it?
Yes.
Because the thing that I handed out here, I guess, is bordering on all of that. I don't know.
Is there anything that any particular points that,
Well,
stood-
a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed the West Cape May ordinances and our ordinances.
Right.
And I consulted with Carol and George. And if you look at that typed sheet I handed out, we came up with some of these
Right.
recommendations. But it looks like some of them have been addressed. I don't know.
the attorney has that. Is that the same thing?
No, I don't
no.
think that is.
Is this it?
Because that's something we just put together, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
That's okay, I can give this to him, he's still working on it.
Yeah, because that's more or less saying that we use our ordinances as a reference.
Right.
And the West Cape May is a basic plan to kind of adopt. They've seemed to have covered a lot in their ordinance plan. But then we have a paid arborist, a code enforcement representative, legal counsel, all things you've been talking about.
Okay.
So I guess it's already
Well,
coming.
we've been using Mickey Riggins from Arbor Care Resources out of Atlantic County. We've been using him on specialized cases where we really, our local Ron Manier or Matt Notch or somebody else can't quite handle it. We get Mickey in to do a big assessment of a tree.
Well, Mickey's,
That seems to work out okay. I mean, you know.
Mickey's a licensed arborist, and the other two.
He is a licensed arborist, yes.
And Ron and Matt are not.
No, and neither is Matt.
Right.
It just,
Would you like to have that arborist put back into
I
the
would
ordinance?
Yeah.
I would like to have
We said-
access to arborists.
you
If
have
there's a serious disagreement about the health of a tree, I'd like to have, but we pay for that. You know, that's not cheap.
I know.
So rather than do that as a matter of course, I'd rather use that as an exception, you know, if we have to. It's a serious disagreement on the health of a tree, I'd rather have the option to go and bring him in, or somebody like him, to talk about a tree.
I was not on the subcommittee or anything, but I've read the ordinance, and it seems to me that the structure and the organization of the West Cape May ordinance is easy to understand. It's broken out into almost like what a process or the procedure should be for looking at the trees, for remedying them,
Right.
for violations, for follow-up. It just flows.
Right.
It
The
is.
one from Cape May is just
Doesn't.
like all over the place.
Right.
And that's why it
Got such
hasn't been
legalese in there
effective.
that it
Well,
doesn't-
we developed the KK
Well, that's-
ordinance as we had to.
As
know.
you-
Yeah.
That's why it's all chopped up. And not to mention, our current solicitor is the one that wrote it for West Cape May. So he knows the uniqueness of Cape May and how to mesh these two ordinances together. We can always put that arborist portion back. The only thing that we didn't want to, that we talked about, you know, and Jay and I have different opinions of it, and I think it's gotta be, it's a decision by this commission needs to be made whether we want to have, or force the applicants to replace the trees that they have damaged or destroyed without consent.
Yeah, and it's,
Or as a way to remove a tree to plant another one somewhere else, the replacement program. I don't know how you folks feel about that. We didn't put
well,
that-
there's also a tree bank. If they take, rather than, I'm not sure how that worked in there, but we charge $75 to take a healthy tree down. But right now, the West Cape May ordinance is that they pay a $400 fee. They pay $400 to buy a new tree. And we put that $400 into account so we can, without, you know, to add to our budget. Right now, the $75 that we charge for taking a healthy tree down, it has to come down for whatever reason that we all determine, goes to the city. It doesn't go into our account. This $400 for the tree would go into the shade tree account for tree replacement.
Well, there has to be a deterrent.
Pardon?
yeah.
There has to be a deterrent. I mean, there has to be a penalty for bad behavior.
Yes.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
if-
Yeah,
if
so
the bad
400 is
behavior
good.
75
Other
bucks,
than that,
They'll be chopping trees
$75
down.
is a
They'll
cheap
help.
cost to
Yeah.
do and
Oh,
build.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not enough.
no, I think we should.
It needs to be
Well,
more
also,
strict.
let the record.
We have to
let
be
the-
more
let-
strict.
Let the record show that after much discussion and poking a tree with pocket knives and stuff, we determined that the tree just to the west of Spilker's driveway, the funeral home director's driveway down here. The tree is deceased, gone to the
That-
great
and-
forest in the
Jay,
sky.
that's a perfect case we could have used an arborist for,
Yeah,
because we've been at that since May.
yeah, and we've determined, we give them, so you'll sign that, or you'll sign that, takedown permit.
That
So
big
he
tree?
can remove the tree, private property tree.
big tree?
The one that hangs over the Washington Inn.
Be no $75 fee because the tree is dead, for one reason or another. But
least that's-
nothing's gonna,
Was it-
we'll
was it
keep,
dead
we'll
when you
keep,
started? Was it dead when you started looking at the tree?
It showed a little bit of life, and we've had some people look at it over the last 90 to 120 days. It's just deteriorated visibly.
Got down.
and there's a tree probably we're gonna have to address in the next year or two, the pine tree, the evergreen tree that's there. That tree's not looking too good either.
That's on Spilker's property also?
Yeah,
Yes.
right next to this one.
Have to look at
It's
that.
just to the south of this deciduous tree.
Oh, I saw that.
All right,
Um,
that's all oh, don't forget, get your days in. You guys said you can't go, but let Nancy know that you're not
did.
gonna go.
I did.
You can't go to the Shade Tree Federation meeting. You're gonna try to get there, because you've gotta get your core training in. I'll talk to Jim also, either Thursday or Friday.
Can I just revisit one thing, Mr. Chairman, going back to
Yeah,
this note? And Shane, one of the items that we were suggesting here was that, for example, for a zoning application.
Yes.
The Shade Tree Commission provides input into that site, if there's any trees being impacted, what type of construction barrier may or may not. Just an overall, the Shade Tree Commission comments on those projects.
Okay.
One item that we've seen, and I've seen it just where I am, is that when the HPC makes when there's not a variance needed for a project, and the land's large enough, you don't have a zoning situation, and we've seen this happen. The HPC will say, oh yeah, you can have a clear site. And in one particular project, a white pine and a cedar tree were just cut right down because they were permitted to have a clear site.
Right.
Now, if we had,
this is the driveway, right?
no, this is around the corner from the driveway.
Okay.
And they had their permits, but that was because the Shade Tree Commission didn't have the ability to comment on HPC applications.
Right.
So if we could have a uniformity between zoning and HPC, I think that would do a lot to at least make sure nothing falls between the cracks.
Absolutely. That was discussed in our meeting with the
Okay.
solicitor. I'm going to send this document to him, and I'm also going to recommend that he listen to our meeting today to take in all of our comments.
Yeah, and the time, when you get these go-see voluminous pages of blueprints on go-sees, you're gonna make your comment on stuff like this, give a approval or disapproval, there's a section on there, and make your comments on there, because I'll tell you, I know the HPC, and I think the planning board, but I know the HPC reads those and puts those into their approvals and whatnot. So they're very important. You put, if there's no trees involved, you mark it that way too. But if there is, put your comments in there.
We also discussed with the solicitor changing the application. I don't know if you remember me handing out the applications for the city of Cape May, and for West Cape May. Theirs is much more detailed. And one of the things I recommended was also, every application we get should come with a drawn site. And not just a tree in question, I want to see all the trees in there. 'Cause once that's in the record, and we go, walking our dogs down the street and realize, wasn't there a tree there? We can always look that up and say, you know what happened to this tree, and when did it happen?
Shane, that's happening more than I think all of us realize.
I'm sorry, where were you talking about that? Where was this
No, I'm saying when you make an application, part of the application process,
The application for,
removing a tree.
Just in general.
all right.
So this would be the
I
lot,
thought it was about zoning.
and, and they'll show where the tree in question is, as well as all the other trees. Doesn't have to be drawn by an engineer or an architect or anything, but, you know, something for you as a commissioner should be like, well, okay, I know what I'm looking at with my bearings, and it gives us an opportunity to file it away and keep it
Right.
for our record.
A plot plan.
Plot plan.
All right, right, okay.
Just one more thing, the last item on this sheet, the type sheet I gave out.
Yeah.
I think is important, you're talking about a solicitor. We were in a situation a couple weeks ago where we felt, at least some of us felt, we had to make a decision right away, because we had the city manager here and the woman. I think we need to be able to say, we're going to go in closed session and discuss that, and we'll get back to you. Because then you don't feel like there's so much pressure. These people are all watching, they want an answer right away, and maybe you really didn't digest everything.
Well,
You need more time.
We can't go and discuss, that I know of, in closed session, but we can say we need more time to
Right.
make this decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one or the other.
I don't think we can go to closed.
We don't have to say yes or no at that point.
Absolutely.
We've done that.
And
We've
if
done
we-
that.
We've done that. People may not like it, but we've had an opportunity then for the whole board to go and take a look at the street
I've-
and then discuss it.
I've actually put on some of my sheets, want to go get further consultation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The what, George?
On the sheets that the commissioners we fill out, on the comments, I've put deferring decision, want to get further consultation.
That's good.
you know, I would think that if we institute a practice when people come and appeal a decision that the shade tree is made, that we listen to them and then we'll just
That's a good idea.
blanketly say, well, we'll get back to you.
And we'll discuss it.
Right, yeah, we can do that.
Do that,
And then,
rather
and
than
then the
actually
fin,
answer
if
on
we
the
change, if we
spot.
change this order, rather than have them then just run upstairs, to get a, you know, go get past our decision, then we're gonna have a sit-down meeting with the city manager and their representatives, our city attorney, if we have to, and we'll go over it that way.
Yeah.
That way we, you know, it's easy all of a sudden to just say, oh, that tree's a hazard, and a 80 or 90 or 100-year-old tree is gone.
Yeah.
You know, so you're gonna put up a new tree. Well, that twig is gonna be 30 years before it gets
That's right.
any shade. I mean, I love to put up new trees, but our whole objective down here is try to protect the old growth of trees that we have, so.
Yeah, we're really the last line of defense for these trees.
Well,
And it's kind of weak right now.
Your job is really tough as it is. You should not feel pressured to have to make a decision immediately.
Yes.
You know, and unfortunately, there's not much room for us to go in closed session. We are considered a commission because we have a budget, and we're all appointed officers in this town. So, you know, there's only very few rules to have a closed session. The only thing I could consider having a closed session for between us is if one of us did something illegal. But, you know, that's why, you know, it takes, I think, 4 people to have a quorum. And, you know, if you want to get together with 2 other individuals from the commission, that's your right to, just don't make a 4-person conversation.
If a vote is to defer a decision, because we need more time to make a decision, that's a valid vote.
And that also gives you an opportunity to get the arborist or do a little investigating and also request advice from the solicitor.
We have what?
In retrospect.
And
I think
ask for
we could have
advice.
done that on a
Yes.
couple things.
You know, the trees,
Well, this is not, determining the health of a tree by a certified arborist is one thing, but this is not rocket science. We can look at it, I mean, we have the experience now, we look at a tree
Right.
and says, well, it's suffering from drought or disease or something like this. It's pretty easy, a lot of times, it's a decision to make.
And Cape May sidewalks are gonna.
Yes.
They're all like
be
that.
bumped
They're
down.
all like that.
That's the way it is.
You know, and people don't seem to understand that, or I don't think they water their street trees. But a lot of the requests that I've gotten recently are they think the tree is dying, but the tree's not dying, it's just suffering
Stress.
from heat exhaustion.
Right.
A
You
lot of them
know,
are losing their leaves
Yeah.
because of that.
I'm so glad you brought that up. You know, I was walking by in front of the Catholic church here on the mall, and there's this little tree in front of the thing, and it's burning, you know,
Right.
in the
Yeah,
sun.
yeah, yeah.
And we have paid employees going around watering the flowers. I mean, why can't we put that as a request for next summer that these,
What are the trees?
we as shade tree commissioners should point out some of these trees
Well,
that
street
need a
trees.
helping hand? All the
Well,
streets.
that may be something that we can work on with Public Works. They at one time had a water wagon, something with a big
Right.
plastic water carrier, big round, half-round thing that they used to tow around
They do.
and squirt water on it. It's for new trees, not so much the old trees.
Right.
You go crazy trying to, in a heat situation, to water all the old trees. I would say, but the new trees have been planted in the spring, and then all of a sudden get heat stressed,
Well,
you know?
Public Works has that truck that they go around in like the little triangle areas, like when you first come into town, and they water there.
Oh, they're out, I think at 6 in the morning, they're all over town.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Oh, they water the flowers,
They
yeah.
water the flowers.
Yeah, we
but
could give them a
new
list of
trees-
the new trees that were planted in the spring. This is why, for the most part, we try to plant trees in the fall,
Yeah.
because they're dormant. And then come spring, when it starts to, when they start budding out and stuff like this, they get rains in the spring, and they seem like they do better than planting trees in this, you know, the heat of this summer.
Jay, do we know whether the trees that they got from Atlantic City Electric that Matt Notch was looking after, are they gonna be planted, or we?
Yes, hopefully they'll be planted this fall. George, I would ask George that.
George.
Yeah, George, Matt Notch has them at minimum expense, but has them in storage at his house in West Cape May. So, we'll hopefully get those out and in the ground. There are a lot of.
Okay, so there's no date of when they're going?
No.
Okay.
Have the locations been,
Pardon?
locations, have they been?
We've got plenty of locations.
Cool.
We got plenty of locations. But problem is, sometimes these trees get taken down, particularly memorial trees. You know, we're not doing that much in memorial trees anymore because we don't have anybody that do the
plaque.
plaques.
Right.
The people that made them out of, etched a regular brick, you know, rectangular brick thing that you put your memorial saying on the thing. They're not doing it anymore, so I don't know, we don't have, and some are missing plaques that stood up, you know, and they got weed whacked and various other things. So sometimes we get some of these plaques when the tree goes down or something, the plaque gets disposed of. Oh, if we need any water bags, I found out where all the water bags are. They're out right by the gas station in Public Works Yard. There's a little outbuilding back there and a little plastic storage thing. Must be 30 or 40 water bags there. Remember, we used to put the water bags around the tree and fill them with water?
They have a lot of in West Cape May, I've noticed.
Yeah, they have a lot of them. They have the ones that go up the tree, which is not as good, but they have some that lay down at the ground, so it doesn't have all that wet stuff against the bark of the tree. It just lays closer to the ground like a donut, you know, and that seems to be the newer kind now. But if you want them, I know where they are.
Well,
Till Public Works.
we should probably put some around the trees that are in distress at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, now, does anybody have anything more for the good of the order?
Do you all have my number if you need anything?
No.
I'll give it to you after the meeting. I don't want people calling me.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Nancy?
I'll entertain it.
Or Carol and?
Carol and Carol,
Carol and Carol, okay.
We've got it.
All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Don't forget to let Nancy, don't forget to let
We can
Nancy
turn our things
know.
off?
Don't forget to let Nancy know
Yes.